Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will discuss the challenge that the developing world faces from the perspective of non-duality. As you know, the developing world has been bashed by people for not being equal contributors on the global stage. Many people have pointed out that some of the developing countries will probably never participate at the cutting edge of human endeavors, whether that might be in decarbonization, AI exploitation, or space travel. In this video, we will investigate why this might be the case from the perspective of non-dualism and absolute unity. Now, without wasting any time, let's get into it. The main challenge in the developing world is that they still struggle with issues of governance, the adequate exploitation of their minerals, building sustainable infrastructure and securing generational wealth. Now one might say, yes, that is an observable fact. However, this is the case because the Western world has set up an international monetary system that benefits their nations at the expense of the developing world. Well, I agree with you. However, if you look into it, this was just a natural progression for the Western world. The basic survival mechanism for the Western man was transferred from the individual survival of the organism, or the body, into the survival of the nation, and hence the creation of a monetary system that optimizes the best possible outcome to guarantee the survival of their nations. Now, unfortunately, this outcome might be at the expense of the developing nations, and fair enough, everyone in the dual state of being believes in individuality and tries to preserve themselves in that respect. Now, going back to the developing nations, it still has not dawned on their leaders that they are trying to become wealthy using a system that was designed to make another group of nations wealthy. And so they do as best as they can to dig a ditch with a spoon. It won't work. They're exploiting their natural resources for currency, and they still use the same currency to purchase services and infrastructure from the Western world. It is not the best possible outcome for those nations, but it is, however, the best outcome for the Western world. So strictly in terms of survival, from the dualistic point of view, the Western world has done well in securing the survival of their nations. Now, as long as mankind continues in the state of dualism, in other words, as long as a man looks at another and his thoughts tell him that what he sees is different from himself, people will always prosper at the expense of another. One will always thrive while another strives. And this is the fundamental basis of all warfare. One nation rises up and seemingly poses a threat of survival to another nation, because intrinsically each nation knows that if one nation is to become the superpower, it will be at the expense of the other. Now in the non-dual state, when one looks at another, thought does not come in to suggest that what he sees is different from himself. Everything he sees is in fact entirely himself. There is nothing fundamentally different between one man and another. Each man is entirely made up of the same biology. The organism of each man has gone through the exact same conditioning throughout the millennia to produce what we call the body. The function of the body is exactly the same for each man, save the effects of disease and perhaps isolated genetic anomalies, but it follows that each body is exactly the same. Each individual organism is an exact historical record of mankind. The anatomy of one body is the anatomy of all human bodies, and so the individual is in fact the entirety of mankind. Now if we take it further into the psychological world, I put it forward that the mind of man is also entirely the exact same mind. There is essentially only one mind in which all organisms are connected, and the makeup of this mind is fundamentally divided into two, namely what he identifies as right versus wrong, good versus evil, yin and yang, masculinity and femininity. The mind of man is a polarized mind. It is divided into two, and this phenomenon is seen within each individual, hence mankind shares the same mind. There is only one mind. Now to further explain this, if you observe all the activities of man in different parts of the world, you will see that this polarized psyche is essentially being expressed in different forms, and this variation in expression of good and evil, yin and yang, gives the illusion that one nation is different from the next, one man different from another. They are not at all different, but just expressing the same psychology in different ways, so once again, it follows that there is in fact only one mind that each organism shares. I hope you now see that there is absolutely no difference between one man and another. They share the same body and they share the same mind, and so everything that one does to another, he is in fact doing to himself. It is only the thought, or the thinking process that suggests to him otherwise. Do you perceive this fact? This is why mankind does not live in cohesion with each other and with the environment. Now going back to the developing world, the strife, the hard labor and pain that the one mind experiences through the organisms in those societies is in fact impacting societies in the rest of the world. Remember, there is only one mind. Whatever you do to another, you are in fact doing it to yourself. If the activities to secure a better future for your nation is impoverishing another, then you are in fact impoverishing yourself, and it is only a matter of time before the effects are felt in your nation in one way or another. Do you perceive this fact? So in conclusion, I will say that the best possible future for the human race will be secured when each organism lives a life of true non-duality. When one looks at another and actually sees himself. When each organism experiences, for a lack of a better word, the one mind, the eternal oneness, the absolute unity, or some have called oneness with God. In this state, the best survival for one organism is when the other organism also survives and thrives. I truly see that if in fact consciousness is to expand to other planets, as is the goal of the famous Elon Musk, then the people must be in a state of non-duality, where the survival of the one is the survival of the all. The health of the one is the health of the all, lest the colony suffer the same fate as hundreds of tribes that went extinct in the distant past of the earth. I'll let you consider the points I've raised in this video, so please share your opinion in the comments section and like the video to support the channel. See you on the next one.